Hi, it's Bob Brooks again, and this week I'd like to do kind of a quick review for you of the discussion assignment for session 5. The assignment is to look at this statement made on page 502 of the textbook and reflect on it and discuss your position on it and provide substantiation for your position. And that quotation on page 502 reads, "Poor cash flow management and underfunded agencies are more characteristic of the nonprofit sector than many recognize." And what they're talking about here is liquidity. So you can obviously agree or disagree with this statement as long as you're able to support your position, but I'd like us to kind of review what I consider some of the more important aspects of financial management and discuss those for just a briefly if I can. First, let me say that while you may have always thought that financial management was important, but not the most critical function of what you do when you run a nonprofit organization. Well, to a degree that's true, but I want to show you, if I can, how these things all fit together to make a healthy, sustainable organization that can function in a manner to reach its goals and to basically be able to reach its mission and do the things it's designed to do. So, in the early chapters, if you'll recall, we talked about the mission and vision of the organization, its strategy, if you will. We looked at policies, particularly financial policies, and we looked at financial objectives. We studied a whole chapter on liquidity management, particularly, I think, as it pertains to what we refer to as donative nonprofits. In other words, nonprofits that are supported mostly, at least, by donations, because that puts us in a very different kind of position than it does particularly for-profit organizations. We discussed accounting structure, financial reporting, budget development, fiscal planning, investments, risk management, and of course ethics. Let's start with liquidity, because that's what the bottom line of this assignment is discussing, particularly in a donative organization. So when a donor makes a decision to help fund your agency, what do they consider? Well, first, I think they look at your mission. Is it important? Is something they want to support because your mission is something that pulls at their heartstrings as well as their brain? So that mission statement and that vision you have for your organization becomes part of your finances, because the donor is going to look at that. Do they believe that you can carry out this mission? Because it's one thing to have a great vision, but if you can't accomplish it, they're going to consider that when they decide whether they want to fund your organization or not. And this is your organizational strategy that we discussed. Can we prove that we're capable of using their money wisely to accomplish our mission? Well, this is where your financial policies, your general policies, your objectives, your financial planning, your reporting, your budgeting, and your ethics all flow into this whole issue of how we're running our organization. And then, if you say you can do all these things because you have these in place and you have some financial statements you can give them, for example, can they verify what we're saying? And you'll remember the discussion in the textbook about the watchdog organizations. I think particularly the two they discussed were the Charity Navigator and GuideStar. So all of these things in the course, if you'll see, are focused on helping to build a strategically solid organization that's sustainable and it can accomplish the goals if we're asking people to give us their money in order for us to do that. And let me just close by talking briefly about an organization. It's here in Lakewood, Colorado, where Colorado Christian University is located. I happen to sit on the board of directors of it. It's called the Action Center. Now, the Action Center, like others, if we look at how we can obtain a position of financial stability, especially with an organization as we are, a donative organization, mostly funded through donations. We have a few grants. We have some intergovernmental type agreements with some other organizations that brings us some money, but it's to pay for functions that we do, basically. But the Action Center uses what's called the Benevon fundraising method. That's spelled Benevon. It's a permission-based fundraising method, if you will, where people are asked to look at our organization and offer to donate. And if they don't, we leave them alone. We go on to someone else. So that's why it's called permission-based if you're not familiar with it. But we have a mission, and I'm going to read it to you. The Action Center's mission is to provide an immediate response to basic human needs and to promote pathways to self-sufficiency for Jefferson County residents and the homeless. And we provide food, shelter, clothing, guidance, counseling, help them find jobs, build resumes, do all of those kinds of things to get themselves back up on their feet. And we serve men, women, and families. Our vision is to be a fluid and financially sound agency that identifies and responds to the basic human needs of the residents of Jefferson County. Policies. Let's look at those. We have a confidentiality policy, a whistleblower protection policy, a conflict of interest and ethics policy, which includes a code of ethics, and all of these have procedures of how they work to protect the substantial basis of what those do and what they're supposed to do. We have an in-kind policy, a non-discrimination policy, and all of our employees and our board of directors members have to sign those policies that we will live by those. The Action Center has a committee structure. Each board member serves on at least one committee. These consist of an executive committee, a finance committee, an audit committee, a personnel committee, a fundraising committee, an investment committee, and a risk management committee. Do these all sound familiar with things we've covered in the text? I think they should. By the way, our bylaws state that we can have somewhere between, I think, 12 and 17 board members. I think we're currently at 15. While that sounds fairly large, the fact of the matter is, under a committee structure, you need enough people you don't want them to have to be full-time on this job, so everybody sits on one or two committees. Each month, when we talk about reporting, the board of directors receives a balance sheet, a statement of revenues and expenditures for each fund and program, and a current, what we call ability to pay current bills. It's a ratio statement, one of the ratios we talked about, and this ratio is presented to us in graphic form, rolling over 13 months. If you'll remember, those ability to pay ratio was our current liabilities and expenditures, liabilities, as well as cash. So you can review that if you've what it looks like, but we get ours in a graphic format. Then annually, the Action Center publishes an annual report. This annual report covers each one of our programs, the numbers, how many people it serves, those kinds of things. And then at the end of the report, the annual report, which is, by the way, distributed widely and put on our website, it describes the statement of financial position and a statement of activities for the year ending and the previous year, as well as a full list of our donors, unless they ask to be anonymous. Then again, the board of directors has an annual retreat. It's all day, and we review the organization's financial status. We review policies, we review staff salaries and staff. We review the organizational structure. We adopt the budget for the coming year, and we set goals for the coming year. And we also do a structural review of the organization, its sustainability, including fundraising, and generally take a total overview of the organization. By the way, staff salaries are set annually, and before we set those, we reviewed data from the Rocky Mountain and the national database on similar positions in similar organizations. The Action Center right now, its balance sheet shows a total liabilities and net assets of approximately $7.5 million. We have a strong staff. We have an active and diverse board of directors, and they have been continually growing for the last several years. We find this year we received a 4-star rating from the third-party rating agencies that we talked about earlier, out of 4 stars, by the way, so it's the highest rating. And I think we have accomplished this because of these things that we do that frankly look like they're right out of this textbook we've been studying. So I hope you can see from this example the importance of being a successful nonprofit, how all of these things tie together, and the things that we've been discussing in this course. Beginning with the mission and the vision, the staff, the board of directors, the policies, the financial policies particularly, and all of those reports that we've been discussing, and then finally fundraising methodologies and strategies to make a sustainable organization that can carry out the important mission that you have for our society. So hopefully you can see what this course is supposed to help you develop, and that is a strong, sustainable organization. So I hope this is helpful to you as you begin this last 5th week homework assignment before your final exam. If you have questions, again, I'm always here, and look forward to talk to you. Bye-bye.